We're here at the law office of Daniel Santos, and today I want to talk about insurance coverage. And obviously it's important, it's a state law, but I want to talk about some additional coverage that you may want to consider and you should consider. But first, let's talk a little bit about liability. And that's very simple because everybody's familiar, everybody that has a driver's license, everybody that has a vehicle, they know that state law requires that we have at a minimum liability coverage. And what that means is if you're involved in a car crash, somebody hits you from behind, that person is required, in addition to you, but that person is required to have coverage, some sort of coverage. Typically what's required here is what is a 30-60 policy, meaning maximum is $30,000 per particular person, depending on the injury, and potentially $60,000 for the entire crash. But that's required by state law. But there's some coverage that's not, and there's some coverage that you should consider. So the other type of coverage that's out there is what is not required by state law, and this is what's called underinsured motorist coverage and uninsured motorist coverage. And so let me run through a couple scenarios and how those would apply. Let's say you're involved in a car crash. Somebody again hits you from behind and you sustain some serious injuries. If that person behind you does not have sufficient coverage to cover your medical costs, if you do not have underinsured coverage, then that would be the end of it. You would be responsible for the remaining balance of that medical expense or those medical expenses. If you do have coverage, then in that particular situation, you would be able to file a claim or be able to pursue a claim for that additional coverage to make sure that not only your medical bills in the past are taken care of, but any medical bills that you may have in the future. So it just provides a safety net. And again, it provides that additional coverage that hopefully you'll never need, but in the event, and unfortunately, if you're ever in that situation, you can go ahead and it will be available to you. Now, the other one that's extremely important also is uninsured motorist coverage. Same situation, you're driving, somebody is careless, somebody's not paying attention, and then hits you from behind. You get out of your vehicle, or let's say you can't get out of your vehicle, but you later, determine once the police report comes out, or the police officer advises you or your family, you know what, I'm sorry, the person that hit you from behind, they're 100% responsible. However, I'm sorry, there's no coverage. Unfortunately, I've had those calls. Unfortunately, I've met with those people. And it's one of the sadder situations because not only are they suffering physically, in addition to that, they have property damage. And now there's no coverage, there's no insurance out there for them. You can always pursue a claim, and we'll get into more detail later on, probably on another clip, but you can always pursue a claim against that individual. But the probability and the likelihood of being able to actually recover on that claim is extremely limited. However, if you have what's called this uninsured coverage, then at that point you'll be able to use your coverage. And again, what it is it's another tool, it's another safety net. Smaller insurance companies most likely or may not offer it, and a lot of times people are in a rush and they say, I just need some sort of coverage to make sure I'm legal. However, I would advise you to spend a little bit of extra time, talk to your agent, and get this additional coverage. It doesn't cost as much as the original liability coverage, but it's something that down the road that you may need, and if everything goes pear-shaped, it's a great tool to have available to you. So those are the tips for today. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to give me a call and we can go into more detail.